Welcome to homework 2. Today we are going to learn about solving two-step equations. Okay, so for those of you who maybe struggled a little bit with equivalent equations, this should help to answer some of your questions, hopefully. Here we go. Our goal is to solve equations with variables on the same side, okay, but today we're moving on to two steps, whereas the other day we reviewed one-step equations from 6th grade. Okay, I do want to remind you of some of our vocabulary that's coming back to help us today. Terms are part of an expression or equation separated by an addition or subtraction sign. An algebraic term is a term that contains a variable. Okay, so the second you're talking about a variable, you're talking about algebra, okay, and we call that the algebraic term. Whereas a constant is when you have a number on its own. Okay, so the steps are very similar, okay, but a little bit of a tweak when we have two steps happening. Step 1, draw a river on the equal sign. Nothing's new there. Okay, we're still going to use inverse operations, but this time it's going to be with the goal of isolating the algebraic term. Okay, so the first thing you want to do when you look at an equation is figure out which of the terms has the variable and which one doesn't. Okay, and we always want to move everything other than the variable first. Okay, so we're trying to get the variable by itself. Okay, step 3 is to use inverse operations to get the variable alone on one side. Okay, so first get the algebraic term alone, then get the actual variable alone. And step 4, okay, we know that in order to keep an equation balanced, we have to perform operations on both sides of the equal sign. Okay, so everything is almost exactly the same, but just a little tweak. So I think if we do a few examples, you'll see what I mean. Okay, here's our first example. Okay, solve each equation. We're going to draw the river. Okay, and I see that I have two terms. Okay, this is a constant term, and this is an algebraic term, and the reason I know it's algebraic is because it has a variable. It has the x there. Okay, we want to move the 3 first. Okay, you always want to leave the variable where it is. Okay, so I have a positive 3, and the opposite of a positive 3 would be a negative 3. So I'm going to have a negative 3 on both sides because we want to keep everything balanced. Okay, these 3's will cancel, leaving us with a negative 7x, and yes, the sign in front of the term belongs to it. Okay, and then on this side, 10 minus 3 is 7. Okay, now we have it down to a one-step equation. So these are the ones we practiced the other day. Okay, this is negative 7 times x, and the opposite of multiplying by negative 7 is to divide by negative 7. Okay, x equals 7 divided by 7 is 1, and a positive divided by negative is a negative. So x equals negative 1. Okay, now to check, okay, same steps as before. We want to rewrite the original. 3 minus 7x equals 10. And then anywhere you see an x, we're going to replace it with our solution, which was negative 1. Okay, so I have 3 minus 7 times negative 1 equals 10. And then we follow PEMDAS, which tells us to multiply first. Okay, so we can do the negative 7 times negative 1. And we get positive 7. And 3 plus 7 is 10. So it checks, and we can move on. Please feel free to jot down any questions you have as I go. Okay, or pause the video if you need me to slow down. Part B, draw a river. Okay. Again, I have an algebraic term here and a constant term here. Okay, the sign in front needs to be included. Okay, so that's a negative 1/3. The opposite of a negative is a positive. Okay. Now I'm going to recommend that we get common denominators here so that we can combine these. Okay, if I want this to be a 3, I have to multiply by 3 top and bottom. Change that into a 6 over 3 plus 1 over 3 is 7 over 3. Okay, and on this side, we still have the 1/6 y. Okay, remember, when there's a fraction out front, we want to flip it over and multiply. Okay, we can cross simplify. 3 goes into 3 once, 3 goes into 6 2 times. Okay, over here, we know that this turns into a 1y, which is just a y. And here, 7 times 2 is 14. Okay. Now that we have our solution, our answer, we can go ahead and check. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite the original. 1/6 y minus 1/3 equals 2. Then I'm going to plug in my answer. So 1/6 times 14, or times 14 over 1, minus 1/3 equals 2. Okay, PEMDAS tells us to multiply first, so I have 1 times 14 is 14, and 6 times 1 is 6. Okay, minus the 1/3 equals 2. Okay, and now this can be reduced, okay, or we can get common denominators. Okay, 3 and 6 have 6 in common, so if I multiply this by 2, top and bottom, I should be all set. Okay, I would have 14 over 6 minus 2 over 6. And 14 minus 2 is 12. And 12 divided by 6 is 2. So 2 equals 2, and we know that our answer checked. Okay, notice how sometimes the check is more work than actually solving. Okay, but it's worth it because you know you did it right. You know you're guaranteeing yourself 100. Okay, finish that up, jot down any questions you have, and then continue with me. Okay, now this example is unique. Okay, different than the other two. And the reason it's different is because there's 2 algebraic terms. Okay, and I'm going to want to combine those before I start solving anything. Okay, so this is a 1x minus 0.5x, or minus half x. Okay, so 1 minus a half, okay, leaves us with a half. Okay, 0.5x plus 1.5 equals 4.5. Okay, and now that I got it down to 1 algebraic term and 1 constant term, I'm okay to solve. Okay, this is a positive 1.5. The opposite would be a negative 1.5. Okay, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. Okay, on the left, we have the 0.5x that's going to remain there. And over here, 5 minus 5 is 0, 4 minus 1 is 3. Okay, this is 0.5 times x. The opposite of multiplying by 0.5 would be to divide by 0.5. Okay, and x equals 6. Okay, so I have my solution. The variable is alone on one side. Now I can check. X plus 1.5 minus 0.5x equals 4.5. Okay, and anywhere you see an x, we're now going to replace it with a 6. And in this case, that means 2 different x's need to get replaced. So this is 6 plus 1.5 minus 0.5 times 6 equals 4.5. Okay, PEMDAS again says to multiply first. Half of 6 is 3. Copy down what's left. So I have 6 plus 1.5 minus the 3 equals 4.5. Okay, 6 plus 1.5 is 7.5. Minus 3 is 4.5. So it checks. Finish filling in your notes, jot down any questions you have for me, and then if we flip to the next page, you see that there are practice questions here for you. Okay, I gave you plenty of space so that you could check your work. Okay, and I'd like you to do, you see question 1, 2, and then on the following page, 3 and 4, and we'll be looking at those tomorrow in class. See you next time.